So in this video, I'm just going to go through some of the games I've been playing this year that I quite liked, or they're the games that sort of influenced my gaming and hobby. They're sort of my top 5. Not all of them came out this year. A couple of them came out last year, but they were ones that I only got into this year. So anyway, let's just see what they are and crack on. Majestic XIII. This is a game from a new company called Snarling Badger Games. They've had a couple of products out before. They had a one set in the Demon World, Chaos World, I can't remember the name of it. Reign in Hell, I think it was, which was a skirmish war game where you would play Chaos Demon armies. The second one was a sci-fi game, which set on a derelict sort of space station. That's quite good. I'm miniature agnostic. Both these games are miniature agnostic, and Majestic XIII is miniature agnostic. Now, the best way to describe Majestic XIII is think X-Files but with more guns. You basically take a unit of special forces operators and you investigate alien phenomena in the same way that X-Files, but instead of being Mulder and Scully, you've got special ops team, and that's basically in a nutshell. And it's you because it's miniature agnostic, you can use any miniatures you want. There's plenty of miniatures out there. Hassle-free do some nice miniatures that will work as special ops guys, and there are plenty of ones that, you know, miniature manufacturers that do make modern special operations soldiers. So yeah, that's one. I really liked that game. Another game that I really liked this year was 0-200 Hours. Now, 0-200 Hours didn't come out this year. I think it came out last year. And I was interested in the game, but I didn't get around to playing it or picking it up until this year when the expansion for the Desert War came out. And that was basically because I've been watching the BBC programme SES. I think it's called SES Rogues. But it was basically about the guys in World War II in the desert, you know, the beginnings of the SAS. Now, the core game is set in Europe, and it's basically, the idea of the game is that you have small raiding unit like commandos, SAS, or French resistance, and you take on missions. So you're looking at recreating the commando raids in the early part of the war, or some of the resistance operations and missions that were carried out throughout the war. Or if you're looking at the later part of the war, then you could be looking at the SAS going behind the lines, operating in Europe, Italy and the Aegean and all that sort of area. And the new expansion, as I said, takes it to the desert, the Desert War, and the beginnings of the SAS, but also the long-range desert patrol. So you've got that great ability to be taking out airfields and stuff like that, and you're up against the Africa Corps, and it's a great game. If you don't want to play bolt action because you think there's too many miniatures, you don't want to, but you want to jump into World War II, this is a great way of doing it. You only need a handful of miniatures on both sides, some terrain, and away you go. It's very much character driven. It's a great little game, and it's a good way of dipping your toe into World War II. Okay, so the next game we're going to look at is Historical Bridging Fantasy. It's War Transformed. It's by Osprey Games, and it's set during World War I. But the timeline's changed. What happens is there's a cataclysmic event, which is something crashing into the moon, if I remember right, which causes problems down on Earth, to do with tides and the sea and all the rest of it. It causes chaos down on Earth, and so temporarily, while this chaos is occurring, World War II sort of halts. Once that sort of chaos has subsided, World War I takes back up again, but pre sort of Ice Age, there was a land bridge between the UK and France called the Doggerland. And there's a video which I explain what the Doggerland is. That's risen. The seas of that's no longer covered by the sea. So the fighting now takes place on the Doggerland. But also, sort of magic folklore, as things from folklore and magic have appeared in the timeline as well. So you've got World War I, bits of magic, a landscape which was not seen since sort of Ice Age, and modern weapons. It's a great way for anyone that's fancy but thinks, oh, you know, quite fancy maybe historical. I'm not quite too sure. So another great gateway game of dipping your toe into a historical from say fantasy gaming. And not only that, it's a great way for anyone that's into kit bashing a unit. And this is really going to kit bash units for this game. Okay, the next game is another Osprey title. It's called Doomed, and it's post-apocalyptic. It's set in a post-apocalyptic world, and the idea is that you're out hunting these monsters that are in this new world, this new post-apocalyptic world, as well as fighting each other. And you create a warband of specialists and fighters and whatever to tackle on these monsters and other warbands that you may come across. What's great about this game? This is miniature agnostic. It is kit basher's dream. You can literally pull miniatures together from any period, any sort of kit that you've got. So you could have someone dressed in mail or plate armor, wielding a modern weapon, things like that. And it's great for that kit bashing element, and just, you know, really diving into your bit box and just pulling out random stuff and putting it together to form a warband. It's one of those games which was really good, quick and fun to play, and it's great seeing what other people come up with within their warbands and how they've kit bashed their miniatures together. So yeah, that's one of the ones that's really sort of interested me this year, and that's Doomed. Okay, the next one is Imperial Legion. Recently dropped, should have dropped in summer but got delayed. And the reason it's on my list is not because it's epic or Legion Imperialis, it's because it's renewed an interest within the gaming community for small scale sci-fi war games. And it has for me. I've suddenly got into 6mm sci-fi, and I'm planning to do a 15mm first edition Warhammer project next year. So yeah, and it's not the #1 game for this year, but it is one of the for me, one of the important games that have landed this year, simply because of that interest within small scale. And I personally think that if you're going to play sci-fi mass battle, playing a smaller scale is the best way to go about it, because you're playing a sort of modern or near future warfare, and it needs to be played with combined arms, and the only way to do that is in a smaller scale. You just can't play combined arms at sort of 28mm or 28mm heroic. It's just because you will never have a table big enough. Even if you're playing apocalypse games of 40k, you're still not playing proper large scale miniature battles. You're only playing a sort of skirmish still. Yes, you've got some more stuff on the table, but it's still only a skirmish. It's not on the grand scale where you've got fleets of tanks, you've got multiple walkers and, you know, titans and the rest of it, large infantry units. So yeah, so for me, Legion Imperialis, because it has generated that interest in small scale skirmish wargaming.